evening. Firemen are refusing to fight any more fires at two Dunedin tips, the Green Island one and Maxwell's, both in the Kaikorai estuary. The ban is a result of their concern about safety when dealing with toxic substances dumped at the tips, Mark Price reports.
Firemen are concerned that tip operators don't know exactly what chemicals are dumped here, where they're dumped or in what quantity. On average, they're called to tip fires 3 times a month.
There are reports of fireballs exploding into the air while people have been firefighting out there, and drums exploding, and there are also instances of fires where normal firefighting methods like applying water have been ineffective and they've had to rely on foams to extinguish them.
The firemen concede that they have breathing apparatus available to them, but still believe they're not completely safe if 2 or more toxic substances become mixed together.
We can rely on breathing apparatus, but we can't rely on our own firefighting uniform being totally effective, because some fumes from some toxic substances will be absorbed through the skin, and our firefighting uniform doesn't totally protect us against that.
They plan a meeting with health officials next week, but as it stands, tip operators will be left to put out any fires without their help. The Dunedin City Council says it's only a month or so away from establishing new tipping regulations that should overcome firemen's concerns. Firemen say when a similar ban came into force in Christchurch, there was a marked decrease in the number of tip fires.
The details of Princess Anne's visit to the south early next month were announced today. In Dunedin, the Princess Royal will visit Fisher and Paykel's factory, attend a civic luncheon and open the reception centre at Tairoa Head. The next day, she'll visit the Clyde Dam and open Mount Aspiring College at Wanaka. Otago computer experts off this week to match their skills with the best in the world reckon they're in with a chance. 2 top Otago University programmers are in the New Zealand team going to the International Programming Contest in Kentucky. Michael Lynch reports.
When you're up at university level, computer people seem to inhabit a world of their own. They work gigantic hours, often all night, and they don't mind being called eccentric, for they live for their machines. But as a result, they're now turning out products the rest of us are taking for granted. Snappy graphics like this come out of Otago. Paul Sharp and the team here put it together with limited resources, but using techniques untried elsewhere. Paul's off to the States along with Andrew Trotman as part of the New Zealand team. They're up against 24 other teams, confronting problems such as devising a program to find a way out of a maze. That may sound simple, but what would normally be a day's work, these guys will have to do in an hour. Problem-solving whiz Bob Parslow is no stranger to high-pressure contests like this. He's urging tactics and practice.
Separate problems, because that's, I think, disastrous.
But in the heady world of programming graphics, practice can take a second seat to creativity. Andrew is working against time devising an innovative bird's-eye view of Dunedin's remodelled conference centre. He's working up to 18 hours a day, for it takes money to get overseas. But tiredness or not, there's no shortage of confidence here.
We've got to go there and we've got to show that the best we can do is the best that the world can do.
Can these guys really foot it with the rest of the world?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yes, I'm very impressed with the work they've done here. The tapes that I took over from the work they were doing here and showed in Singapore and in Vienna were really well received.
You're getting enough practice, as Bob said.
We are doing some practice.
You're doing enough practice?
We're doing just about enough. We will have enough done by the time we leave, yes.
Don't you get a bit tired working 14 hours a day, though?
Yeah, although it has to be done.
You like what you're doing?
Yeah, it's great.
The enthusiasm here is infectious. Ideas fairly buzz. Otago's computer scientists are attracting world attention. But it does have its price. We left Andrew recharging his batteries.
Good luck to Andrew and the others. Now to the impact computers are having on surgery. New Zealand surgeons may find themselves subject to quality control if a computer-based system operating at Dunedin Hospital is introduced throughout the country. It's designed to show how successful each surgeon has been. The idea's already caught on in a Melbourne hospital. Now, as Lee Davies reports, the man who developed the program wants to see it used much more widely.
The operation was a success, but the patient died. It's an old joke, but it's sometimes proved true by Dunedin Hospital's surgical audit. Under this system, surgeons provide information for the computer at the end of each operation, and once a month they're called to account for their problems and failures. It could be as major as heart surgery with complications, or as minor as a vasectomy that didn't go quite as planned.
The reason I do hold on to them right to the end is just for security reasons, that they don't duck away on me, the ends, but I think it's not good practice.
The audit's not just for quality control. It also provides a useful forum for exchanging information on technique.
If it's well done for the body of the pancreas, I use a sewing machine type of stitch.
What's a sewing machine type stitch now that you get sewing machines with about 200 different stitches?
Very, very simple, original Singer type.
Senior lecturer Ross Pettigrew, who developed the computer program, wants it used throughout the country. And although there's some resistance to that, the response has been mainly positive.
Surgeons are beginning to realise that in view of events that have occurred recently, that there is going to be a need for us to monitor our work much more closely.
But would-be patients shouldn't get their hopes up. The audit figures won't be available to members of the public shopping for a surgeon.
Now to one of the country's biggest annual sporting events, which is taking place in Dunedin. It's the 39th National Women's Bowls Tournament, which has attracted more than 1,000 competitors, the most ever for a Nationals here. Bernard Buck's been around the greens.
Slightly warmer weather was welcomed by the bowlers today as post-section play was getting underway in the singles. Altogether, some 1,100 players from 26 clubs are competing, and the tournament's being played on more than 30 greens as far apart as Outram and Waikawaiti. Among the big guns taking part in the various events, past national pairs champion Denise Page, skipper of the World Cup team Jean Ryan, past singles and pairs champion Alpha Trigg from Riccarton, and local Central Otago rep Evelyn Scott of Cromwell. While most competitors have praised the tournament itself, all agree the weather's been less than kind.
Oh, well, I think everybody's affected by the weather, and you've just got to make the most of it, haven't you?
The headquarters for the tournament is at Logan Park, where the Otago Women's Bowling Centre built its own club rooms 2 years ago. The centre established its own greens here 50 years ago, and up till recently used the old aquarium from the South Seas exhibition as its club rooms. One factor that's come in for special mention at these nationals is the quality of the Coachella greens. A case in point is at the centre itself, where the standard of the greens owes a lot to one of the pairs competitors. Anne Dougal began looking after the centre's greens about 4 years ago and is one of the country's few lady greenkeepers. This morning she was on the job soon after 7, preparing for today's play.
I really think to be a good greenkeeper you need to be a bowler. You need to understand the conditions in which you play in and the conditions which the average bowler requires.
Have you had any feedback from the players here? Do they seem happy with the greens generally?
Yes, they have, especially the North Island people. They all would like to take these greens back home.
The tournament runs until the end of next week.
A fabulous array of ceremonial masks, costumes and other items, all fashioned from cedar, is on display in Invercargill. The exhibits are the work of several Indian tribes, mostly from British Columbia and Canada. And as Peter Cruikshank reports, they represent a cultural and spiritual revival of an ancient culture.
The masks, cloaks and other exhibits are contemporary versions of traditional items which the people of the Cedar, 7 tribes who inhabit the area, used for centuries. The ancient crafts of their ancestors, which had all but died out, have recently been revived, sparking off a renaissance in their 10,000-year-old culture. The Indians' lives were based around the great cedars which dominated their environment and which provided for all their needs, from canoes to cooking pots. Even their clothing came from the giant trees, bark pounded until it was soft. But it's the ceremonial masks which provide an insight into the richness of the culture of the people of the Cedar.
Well, I think it shows very dramatically the parallels between the early Maori culture and the Northwest Coast Indian culture, even though they're many thousands of miles apart in the Northern Hemisphere. It's a major exhibition from the Canadian High Commission, and we're very pleased to be able to show it in Otago and Southland.
The exhibition will be on show at the Southland Museum and Art Gallery until early March. It'll then go to Christchurch.
Really looks a fascinating show. Now a quick look at today's weather before we go. Sunny in Half Moon Bay at 3 o'clock with 15 degrees. Invercargill fine 15 and a high tomorrow of 21 degrees. Gore high cloud 15. Balclutha sunny 15. Dunedin cloudy and 12. Better news for the lady bowlers tomorrow 20 degrees. Palmerston partly cloudy and 15 degrees. Oamaru overcast 14. Ranfurly fine 18. Queenstown fine and 18. Wanaka partly cloudy 20. Alexandra fine, the high of 22. Overcast in Te Anau and 19 degrees. We'll be back tomorrow night. Good night.